projects. We sometimes go parallel. We did GM maize, she did GM cassava at the same time. But I wanted to focus on the sort of challenges at a more abstract level that we face in doing this kind of research that links producers, stakeholders, and scientists. And so that's what I'm going to argue is a reason, sort of reasons behind why we decided that translational research is the best way to go. And secondly, sort of what are the challenges at an abstract and general level of doing this kind of research. And then lastly, I think that land-grant universities are uniquely positioned to meet some of these challenges. So this is Poverty 101. You know, that if you went to a sociological textbook, poverty, persistent poverty at community level is due to choice, chance, and context. People may have, and they interact. Choice is limited, and often the choices that people use for long-term survival will undermine their long-term ability to survive. Chance is important, is that droughts and bad events can knock you back and keep you down, and context is important. You have to develop or provide for new choices that work in the context where people work. So that's the first thing. And we have to reduce the negative consequences of chance. And that's what actually Tom is going to talk about, is about resilience. And we either have to change the context that we're living in, or we have to figure out some novel way of dealing with it and accepting it. And so that's what we have to do to combat poverty, in my point of view. So anymore, participatory research and translational research at the general level is sort of like mother and apple pie. We all say we have to listen to the farmers. Well, we've been saying that for God only knows how long. And it doesn't seem to have worked that well. So there has to be some thing that gets in the way. And so I'm going to just briefly sort of outline what I think are in the way, in a sociological, my apologies, way of looking at it. Context is the curse of scientists, technocrats, and bureaucrats. Remember I said context is everything in agriculture? And context is anathema to us. Okay, as scientists, we're trained to ignore context. It's called the error term. Okay, if we can't specify it and have it in a variable, we ignore it. Science is about looking for phenomena that are invariable over time and place. And context is always variable by time and place. So it's that thing, that elephant that scientists don't like to talk about. Administrative knowledge, on the other hand, rules should ideally apply to equally to all individuals, all over time, in all places. And if not, you've got to get new rules because it's bad. Okay. Now, I'm emphasizing this precisely because if you're dealing with small farmers, context is everything. They don't think in variables. They don't think in why things work. We've always done it this way, this works in my context, that's all I need to know. So for me, if you're going to have programs that actually help the poor in a sustainable manner, develop better farming, you have to help scientists and administrators and technocrats deal with context, and you have to figure out and help producers think beyond their context or understand their context outside, because it's easy to swim in a sea and not notice the sea, so to speak. So I think that I think is a fundamental challenge that we have. Where this comes from is so context is the world of practitioners, and translational research, as she talked about, came out of medicine. And this is really important because what they found out is that if you don't include, that practitioners, clinicians, do not behave, think, or organize knowledge in the same way as medical researchers do. Okay? They went to the same schools. They speak the same language. They have the same culture. And if it doesn't work in medicine, think about agriculture, where you have small producers where the agricultural scientists in many countries, in order to get a PhD in agricultural science, it means you had to go to a bilingual school in the capital city. And if you're lucky, you may have visited a farm before you went to ag school. So if you need, what I'm talking about is, so I just want to emphasize that this isn't some kind of colonial thing, this idea that context is just for those poor people. What we've learned from translational research is context is the real barrier. Handling context is the real barrier we have in medical research as well. And so, so that practitioners always focus on context, and they're both the masters of their context. They know how to manipulate, they know how to survive, and they're the prisoners of it because they can't set a sort of look beyond the box. Okay, so our challenge, and then I'm going to keep to my 6 minutes. Our challenge is that echoing and going back to Corinne's talk, is all new solutions require new connections or bridges between knowledge systems. And I view as sociologists, administrative, practitioner, and scientific knowledge systems don't go by the same rules entirely. And so that you have to create some part of the reason why we keep repeating the same errors is because of this disconnect before them. Okay, and this, so that's our challenge. Now, land-grant colleges have rather successfully filled this role in our country, but we didn't really reflect on it. We're practitioners. We're practical. We just did it, so we really don't know why it worked. So we made the mistake of going out and trying to just replicate, put our institutions who are adapted to our problems in other places. And what I want to do, just is to sort of end it, is go back to my beginning and just say, okay, this is the issue. New connections or bridges between knowledge systems. That is what traditionally in the early part of the 20th century the land-grant system did, is created these bridges. So my argument is, if you want to, in the future, enable and help small producers get out of poverty, the focus has to be on that target. And there are many challenges to accomplishing that, but that is the reason why people like Corinne engage in translational research. Thank you.